Tsakani Maluleke is the first woman to hold the position of Auditor General in the institution's 109-year history. She is a seasoned business leader with a wealth of corporate governance experience. Please welcome the Auditor General of South Africa, Tsakani Maluleke.
Thank you very much for that very kind and warm introduction. I really am delighted to be here, conscious that I stand before you in lunch, so I will keep my comments brief. I'd like to start by greeting Brenda and thanking you for making me and the AGSA a part of this very important conversation. I'd like to also recognize the chair of the Mail and Guardian, Hussein. Thank you for your very kind words and of encouragement and of complimenting the team that I'm privileged to lead. Those young people that you came across at MDDA represent that which is good about our profession of auditors, about AGSA as an institution, and I also believe about the future of this country, the young people of this country. Working with them gives me tremendous hope, inspires me every day. They're part of a team that is 3,600 strong, a team comprising of more than 1,300 audit professionals, 850 of whom are qualified chartered accountants. We have a training program at the Office of the AG, so those young people you interacted with are part of that training program, and they're on their way to qualifying as chartered accountants one day. It's the biggest scheme that has been accredited by the South African Chartered Accountants Institute, and it is a scheme that over the last 20 years plus has helped more than 2,000 young people qualify as chartered accountants. And for me, it's one of the things that tells a big story about what each and every one of us can do differently as leaders, is to be conscious of our responsibilities to South Africa and to building our future. These young people that train at the Office of the AG often are first graduates in their families, and we know what that does in terms of changing the trajectory of the generation of their families. Ladies and gentlemen, that is how I greet you. I'm delighted to be here, as I've said, and I am conscious that we stand thinking about the upcoming elections. We stand thinking about, in 30 years of democracy, where are we as South Africa? We stand conscious of the many troublesome stories we hear about of the lived experiences of our citizens who don't enjoy efficient and predictable and consistent service delivery. We stand here thinking a lot about the shrinking fiscus, the shrinking resources, and conscious that we have to figure out how we get to a point where we have an effective government. We have effective administration within the different entities within government. It's urgent business, and it needs all hands on deck. Every single one of us, whether we happen to be leaders in the private sector or the public sector. I so believe that conscious, ethical, responsible, responsive, conscientious leaders are what we need in every single institution. It is such leaders that are able to inspire others. It is such leaders that are able to ensure that the organizations that they run are characterized by ethical behavior. And it is such leaders that have the best chance of ensuring that the resources that they're entrusted with are being deployed in the effective delivery on their given mandates, whether they happen to be in the private sector or the public sector. Now, the AGSA, Auditor General of South Africa, is the supreme audit institution of the country. Our job is to audit every single one of the public institutions that has access to public funds. It is one of those institutions that performs a very critical function in our democracy, in our nation, making sure that those that are entrusted with public funds do so with care. We conduct over 1,000 audits every single year, covering national departments, provincial departments, public entities, as well as municipalities. We audit also the state-owned entities. In fact, of the biggest ones, it's only ESCOM and the IDC that we don't sign off ourselves. They are audited by private sector auditors who conduct those audits under our supervision and oversight. Our audits deal with a view on financial reporting, whether or not the debits and credits are right. That should be doable, right? They deal with performance information, which is about service delivery information. It gives a sense of whether or not that institution is operating as what they say they are. And then it also covers compliance with laws and regulations. Now, I want to highlight something really good and something that often gets forgotten when we talk about the public sector. This audit mandate of the AGSA, which covers those three critical areas, which give a good view about how that institution is being run. An audit mandate that sees us auditing every single public institution every single year. It's not an audit mandate that is enjoyed by every single country across the world. We're one of very few supreme audit institutions that gets to do that which we do with the type of independence we enjoy. In fact, the World Bank ranked us as one of only 2 countries in the world that enjoys full independence. Sometimes we forget about the good that came with our democracy, the good of the type of institutions we have designed and we have nurtured over the last 3 decades. Crucial, therefore, that as conscious leaders, we often think about how we protect institutions such as those. Our work helps to empower those that lead institutions, and maybe let me highlight what I'm talking about. You've got people who lead in administration, and you've got the political leadership in the executive. Our work is to empower those leaders with information about how those institutions are run so that they can drive the necessary improvements. They are the appointed stewards, the elected stewards over those institutions. Our job is to give them the type of information that helps them do so better. You and I, as citizens, must hold them accountable in terms of whether or not they're responding to the advice that we're giving. They're responding to the problems we're identifying as a course of strengthening their environments. Our reports are often directed at those that have been elected to oversee those institutions. Those are the public representatives in the legislatures and parliament, as well as the municipal councils. My job and yours as citizens is to be responsible in holding them accountable in terms of whether or not they're doing what they should in driving oversight properly. Given that we audit everyone, I think we have a good view of where the problems are, but we also have a good view of where the strengths are. The entities where we find strength are those where you've got leaders that, yes, are conscious of their duties, they are conscientious in giving effect to those duties, and they exercise ethical conduct. They embrace the spirit of what's sitting in Section 195 of our Constitution, which really details how every single public institution should run and how every public servant should act. It's clear. In fact, that particular clause in the Constitution empowered the Batubili principles, which set out key matters around ethical behavior. And then in the local government sphere, you've got a code of conduct, which sets out specific obligations on what every municipal councillor and official should be doing in terms of driving ethical conduct. So the rules, the prescripts, the guidance is there. Our job, yours and mine, is to make sure that we hold those that we elect to account so that they do deliver on their mandates. Quite often, our reports touch on local government, and they're the ones that tend to get the greatest airtime because that is the sphere that touches on the lives of people directly. I hasten to add that the ethical gaps that we find in the leaders in too many municipalities often exist in the provincial and national government as well. Think for a moment with me what it tells you about how a municipality or a department is operating when people go without water. When my sister from Durban will tell you that as a Chamber of Commerce, they're well aware that long after the floods that hit the KZN region, and specifically that particular city. There were far too many people still sitting without access to basic water, basic sanitation services, and there were water tankering services being paid for, and yet those water tanks were not reaching them. Think for a moment with me what that tells you about the dearth of ethical leadership, conscious leadership, conscientious leadership. Think with me about what that tells us about what you and I should be doing differently in holding those leaders accountable. Think with me about what you and I should be doing differently in ensuring that the public service is led and managed by people that have those key values, that espouse those values, that demonstrate them on a consistent basis. Think with me about what type of invitation that is for you and I to embrace our duty, to also worry about who's leading these institutions. Do we send our very best into the public service? Or do we leave the public service to those who can't do anything else? Think with me what that tells us about a public sector that doesn't enjoy access to talent that the private sector does. The work we're doing at the AGSA of ensuring that we train strong, professional, ethical people is about helping to capacitate the public sector. Many of them go on to become the CFOs, the CEOs, the directors general in the public sector. And that's happening more and more. But interestingly, because we've been clear as the AGSA that our training program mustn't be less than anyone else. It must be the same as what you find at a private sector firm. We must be seen and we must indeed be delivering the same quality of professional. So, evidence is there. Team AGSA is able to deliver neck on neck with the Deloittes and the KPMGs and the PwCs of the world the same number of newly qualified chartered accountants each year. 2 years ago, we were second in terms of number of new CAs that qualify through our office, writing the same exams, having gone through the same level of training. Last year, we were third. And that will continue. I point that out because it's crucial that you and I worry about having public sector institutions that are just as strong as what's happening in the private sector. Because what that does is it gives us confidence that the people we place into the market, whether they go private sector or public sector, are just as strong as anyone else. Our guys are also ending up in the private sector more and more because we're conscious that they must not walk around believing that they are less than, because that's where confidence comes from. We're also very clear that they must be able to move anywhere in the world, and they do. More and more of our guys that train from the office of the AG are moving into private sector firms, public sector firms in South Africa and abroad. I mention that because the type of skill we've got to be worried about, all of us, that must be sitting in the public sector, must be the one that also is in the private sector. Otherwise, the type of society we dream of, the type of South Africa we dream of, we'll never realize if we continue to neglect capacitating and professionalizing the public sector. I'm well aware of the time out. I want to commend Sumitomo Rubber South Africa. Lubin, I think the example you gave of how the private sector institution that you lead is demonstrating a type of posture of ownership in Ladysmith that says we are part of society, we're part of the same ecosystem that must make Ladysmith work. That's the type of thing we should all be driving towards. I want to leave you with one last message. I've invited you to think about a few things, especially in terms of how the public sector should look. As we head towards the elections, I'd like to invite you to think carefully about how you and I advocate for two critical things: quality political leadership, whomever the winning parties are, quality political leadership. 2, stable administration. What we've learned over time, it is that instability has been the biggest risk to the quality, the strength, the performance, the accountability, the transparency of public sector institutions, whether it's a municipality, whether it's a state-owned entity, whether it's a department in the national sphere. So, 2 things: quality political leadership, stability in administration. Thank you very much.
Tsakani, thank you very much. I hope you also heard the connection between what Tsakani shared with us and Palesa in terms of their role as conscious and ethical leaders in really driving forward to hold other leaders accountable. Really impressive to have such strong leadership in the roles that both of you play, and thank you very much for the role that you play as our Auditor General. Our next speaker really is our regular fan favorite at the summit and a leading light in the Conscious Companies faculty. He works to establish values-driven organizational cultures and empowers leaders to move beyond constraint of thought and behavior patterns to discover new perspectives. From the Conscious Leadership Academy, please welcome from Munich, Dr. Jan Bellerman.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for having me again. Today, I would like to talk about the essence of conscious leadership, or at least my view on it. What you are seeing here are currently the most important theories about consciousness. They have two things in common. One thing is, they don't agree with each other at all. And that tells me that science will still take some more time to figure out what consciousness is. The second thing they have in common is they believe that your consciousness is shaping your experience of life. So let's start here. How and in which way are we experiencing life? Let's go deeper. And when we go deeper, we suddenly discover it's getting very simple. Because you either are feeling great and you are enjoying life, or you are suffering and you are not enjoying life. So basically we can say, as human beings, we just experience life from two states, which I would like to call stress and well-being state. Of course, there come several emotions along with it in different intensities. So you could experience very intense fear or anger or rage. But there are also very subtle ones, like boredom or irritation. On the well-being side, you could have amazing experiences like feeling one with everything, feeling total peace, being in causeless love. But you could also be just calm and confident. In our trainings, we always face the question, hey, but I experience a third state. I often feel neutral. It's not quite right. Especially in the West, in the Western world, we are living in the mind. So the only emotions we are experiencing are the intense ones, because we are conditioned to suppress or ignore them in most of the cases. So all these subtler ones, we either ignore or we regard them as normal, and therefore we see them as neutral. But our body and our brain, they don't see that neutral state. So we are only living from two states. So let's find out what these two states are doing to our brain. And for that, we need to look at this very simple model of the brain. So the red part is the reptilian brain. This is mainly responsible for the body vital functions, for breathing, heartbeat, body temperature, but it's also responsible for the reflexes and the fast, automatic, instinctive reactions. And then we have the limbic system. The limbic system, that's around that amber part in the middle of the brain, that's responsible for your motivation, learning, the memory, and it's very famous, especially the amygdala, for driving your emotions. And then we have the blue part, the biggest part, the youngest part of the brain, which grows until we are 25 years old. And this is responsible for the higher sensory perceptions, for movements, for language, and especially this blue part at the front, the prefrontal cortex, that's responsible for empathy and the rational, logical thinking. So let's look now what these two states are doing to our brain. And some clever researchers in the UK, what they did is they've asked some participants to play a game because our brain cannot distinguish between a game and reality. And when these participants have been fully engaged in finding the next best move to win the game, you can see that the red part, this red energy, is totally in the prefrontal cortex. That means they are having full access to their rational intelligence. The moment they are facing a life-threatening situation as part of the game, this happens. The body and the brain immediately move into survival mode. The whole energy shifts from the prefrontal cortex to the reptilian brain, which is responsible for the fast, automatic, instinctive reactions. And that's great because our body is moving into survival state and is preparing for fight and flight. But let's put it into the business context. What does that mean? Every time when you are facing a new, unknown challenge, you are moving into uncertainty because you don't know how to handle it. In that moment, your brain is moving exactly into that stress state. You're not having access to your full intelligence. You're driven on autopilot, and that means you're only repeating old solutions from the past. And that doesn't sound very clever in a world that is changing every day. So what I would like to take you away from this slide is, number one, your state is determining the quality of your life, if you are in stress or in well-being. This state is determining the quality of your decisions and actions. So now we understand the impact of this state on ourselves. Let's look into what are these states doing to others. And I would like to go into a short reflection, and if you're up for it, just please close your eyes. And remember a situation when you hurt someone. It doesn't matter if that was consciously or unconsciously. Just remember a situation when you hurt someone. And then ask yourself, in what state have you been? Have you been suffering from stress, or were you feeling well? And now please remember a second situation where someone else hurt you. And please reflect again. In what state was that person? Was that person feeling well? Or was that person suffering from some stress? Thank you. Please open your eyes. What did you discover? In which state have you been when you hurt someone? Stress. Yes, thank you. In what state has that other person been when that person hurt you? Stress. Thank you. It's very obvious, isn't it? The moment we are moving into a stress state, we are causing a lot of problems. Let's look at the condition of our world today. We have 110 armed conflicts. We have 700,000 suicides every year. We have 9 million people starving to death every year. So what do you think is the collective human experience we are having here? Are we in suffering or in well-being? So humanity is really suffering. So what we have seen is, earlier in the reflection is, unhappy people create an unhappy world. But the good thing is, happy people create a happy world. Would you think about hurting someone when you are in appreciation or feeling gratitude? No, not at all. So let us ask as conscious leaders now, please be very conscious about your emotional footprint on others. Are you contributing to the well-being on this planet? Or are you contributing to the suffering? The moment when you are facing the fear of not meeting your targets, you have no access to your intelligence. And when you put that pressure on your team, they don't have access to their intelligence. And they come up with a mediocre solution at best. So I would like to ask you, please reflect, in what state are you spending most of your day? In suffering, stress state, or in well-being? So the question is now, when you dared to see your truth, how often we are in these stress states, then the next question is, how do we move out of it? And here I would like to introduce you to a very effective tool, which I learned from my mentors in India. It just takes 3 minutes. It's called Serene Mind Practice. And if you are up for it, please close your eyes and I will take you through it. Please sit straight and close your eyes. And consciously breathe deeply. And exhale very slowly. And do this 3 times. And then recognize the exact emotion that is alive in you. It could be irritation. What does this guy on the stage want from me? It could be resistance. Oh, I don't want to do that. Or you could be curious and open. Or whatever it is, just name that emotion that is alive in you now. And then observe the direction of your thinking. Are your thoughts taking you back to a story of the past? Or are your thoughts creating a nice story about the future or a chaotic story about the future? Or are you in the present moment? Just observe, don't do anything with it. And then visualize or feel a tiny little flame between your eyebrows. And focus on it. And then slowly move this flame into the middle of your brain. And let it burn all unnecessary thinking and illuminating all your brain cells. And then finally put a smile on your face and please open your eyes. Thank you. If you do this exercise, every time when you feel disturbed or stressed or something like that, I tell you, I've done this, sneaked out of tough meetings, escaped to the toilet, just sat there doing it. Do it. Do it several times a day, and if you do this for 28 days, it starts rewiring your programming in the brain. You come much faster and easier out of stress. So this is a very first step for you to move out of the stress tape and moving into a calm courage. Oops. Here's my summary slide. Conscious leadership, for me, is not another concept to tell you what to do or how to do it or why to do it. Conscious leadership for me is a lifestyle. The essence of conscious leadership is my accountability from which state I am leading my personal and my professional life. You have seen the impacts. And I would like to give you two guiding questions. Number one is, from which state do I want to experience my life? And now the question to impact the others is, from which state do I want to lead and act? And these two questions have the power to completely transform your life and the lives of the people around you. So every time when you're facing a challenge, the first thing is pause. Not so easy when you're in the rush of the daily business. This is where most people fail. The second thing is observe the state in which you are and see the truth. The third thing is shift the state if necessary. And the fourth thing is address the challenge in front of you. Because if you are addressing it from a calm courage, you're having full access to your intelligence. At the same time, you're feeling connected to the people around you, and therefore you automatically come up with a great solution that serves all. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Thanks very much. Well, thank you, Jan. That was very relaxing. I was sitting behind the dark curtain here in a comfy chair, and I nearly didn't come back after that. But I had to energize myself. Thank you, Jan. Today, in front of you on your tables, you'll see that we've moved away from the traditional speck boom, and in front of you is a lavender plant, fragrant, adaptable, and loves the sun. This herb is also commonly used for medicinal and therapeutic benefits. It helps improve sleep, relieve pain, and reduce blood pressure. As it turns out, it also has a positive effect on mood, stress, anxiety, and depression. The color is also associated with the crown chakra, which is the energy center associated with higher purpose and spiritual connectivity. A timely intervention, I hear you say, before the elections. We hope that you can find a place for it in your garden and that it may grow as wild and free as the hands that plant it. So please take it home with you. Are you ready for... Well, there you are. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you. I'm sure, like me, you're ready for a break. Okay, so let's take a break. We're going to be playing a video from Mahanji for those of you that are online. And please take a comfort break, and we will call you back rather quickly. Once again, please don't forget to use hashtags during your break, hashtag conscious companies, hashtag conscious leadership, and hashtag summit 2024. Let's take a break. Thank you.
Truth or dare is the summit topic. A very relevant, very important topic to discuss at this point in time. Why? We are going through pretty turbulent conditions in the world now. The world is going through various difficult situations, possibilities of war, possibilities of separation, confusion, economic meltdown, different things, which as great minds of the business industry, you know better than anybody else. This summit, which unites all the great minds of the business circle, is very important as a pivotal force to make a change in the world. We need to be real, we need to be clear. The world has seen enough and more hypocrisy. We talk which we do not mean, and that's not helping the world. That's not creating any difference, any positive difference in the world. The new generation is taking over just around the corner. And what are we giving to them? Important to remember. We will move on. We will go away from this world. And we have to hand over this world to the next generation who are just around the corner. What kind of world are we giving to them? If we are giving a world filled with greed, nepotism, indifference, wars, bloodshed, and the after effects of all these unnecessary emotions, we are giving a very bad world to the next generation. Time to think. If we are serious about what we are going to give to the next generation, we should put our acts together right now, here, right here. We need to be real and we need to say no to the arms race. We need to stop the production of narcotics. We need to stop the distribution of weapons of destruction. We need to come back to humanity. We need to create kind people out of mankind. The humankind should become kind humans. And right now, there is no tomorrow. This is now, right now. Hence, this summit is very important. I am participating through this with you, and the whole world should participate. They should get to know this. They should hear. They should know that we mean business. This is a business community, great minds. We have a great thing to do in the world, and let us do it now. I wish this summit and all the people who are assembled here the very best. I wish you great health, vitality, clarity, and great power for doing the right action. Lots of love. This is Mohanji for you.
You're only making a mess by trying to put things straight. You're trying to straighten out a wiggly world, and no wonder you're in trouble.
What we're recommending is finding significant efficiencies by laying off the people at the bottom of the company and paying more to the people at the top.
Hey, that's me! Yes! With the money signs?
Yeah, that's
It's me at the top!
The lotus of a universe grows from his navel. On there sits Brahma, the creator. Brahma opens his eyes, a world comes into being. Governed by an Indra, closes his eyes, the world goes out of being. Opens his eyes, the world comes into being. Closes his eyes, and the life of a Brahma is 432,000 years, and he dies. The lotus goes back, another lotus, another Brahma. And then think of the galaxies beyond galaxies in infinite space, each a lotus, with the Brahma sitting on it, opening his eyes, closing his eyes with Indras. There may be wise men in your court who would volunteer to count the drops of water in the oceans of the world or the grains of sand on the beaches, but no one would count those Brahmas, let alone those Indras.
%96 of the mass of mammals on our planet today are us and the livestock that we've domesticated. Only 4% is everything else, from elephants to badgers, tigers to bats. 70% of all birds are now domesticated poultry, mostly chickens. Nature once determined how we survive. Now we determine how nature survives.
They say that the average erect gorilla penis is approximately 4 centimeters. And I thought maybe we should give starving children food before we measure gorilla dicks.
You think too much. You worry too much. You ask too many questions that have no answers. You see? There is no reason for anything. All is as it is, and that is it. All is an illusion. So, just enjoy your life. Here, now. This is it. And I have no freaking idea why we are here. It is all one big mystery.
No, being crazy is hard. You're getting all hung up on imaginary problems. You gotta focus on what's real, man. You see this cup? This is literally my favorite cup. Huh. Now it's gone forever, so it's not real, and I don't care about it anymore.
Oh no, my favorite window!
Good boy. All right, here we go. Oh. Oh, look at him settle into it. Oh, buddy. Yes. My good man, to the market. This is amazing. Dude. I don't think there's anything I can say that would add to this visual experience. Check him out, man. Come on, buddy. Come on, buddy. You can do it. Yeah! Oh! You can do it. Maybe you can't do it. It's a little bit of an incline. It's asking a lot. Oh, yeah, I know. It's uphill. It's uphill, buddy. Whew. Okay, slow stop.
Welcome back. Thank you for coming back. We knew that you would misbehave if we gave you a chance. And it's amazing what a little bit of caffeine can do to conversation and consciousness as well. So I hope you're refreshed, and we're going to be kicking off. For those of you that were extremely diligent, either online or sitting in your chairs as requested earlier on, you would have heard from Dr. Mauro Zapatera of the Synovation Group. Mauro's work in understanding the physical mechanics of consciousness, specializing in his work in the medical field with the cerebral spinal fluid, is helping us bridge the gap between our intellectual understanding of consciousness and the intelligent knowing of self. So, and I'm sure we could make that video available to anyone that would like to hear from Dr. Mauro Zapatera.